Hey, you are mature enough to handle me sleeping at my ex, right? She texted while ignoring my calls all night. I didn't fight, just compared stories with his wife, and let their lies expose themselves days later. At our doorstep, she finally met. I am Drew, 38M, and I need to get this off my chest, because honestly, I am still processing what the hell just happened to my life. I am a structural engineer, pretty straightforward guy who likes predictable things, like load calculations and coffee that doesn't taste like dirt. My fiancée Marin, 35F, is this communications director who is basically the opposite of me. She thrives on networking events, knows everyone, and can work a room like it is her superpower. We have been together 3 years, living together for 2, even have this orange tabby cat named Pumpkin, who, no joke, has never liked me. Like, actively avoids me. Marin always laughed it off, saying cats pick their favorites. But honestly, that cat might have been trying to tell me something. Anyway, Marin has this ex-Qley Ward, who she dated for 3 years before me. They broke up because apparently the guy couldn't figure out his direction in life. Cole's married now to this woman Violet, who is a nurse. Seems nice enough from the few times we have all hung out at group things. The whole ex situation never bothered me much. I mean, we are all adults, right? Cut to last Tuesday. I am in Seattle for this bridge inspection project, staying in one of those business hotels that smell like industrial carpet cleaner. I am beat. Just finished a 12-hour day crawling around steel beams, and I am settling in to order some overpriced room service when my phone buzzes. Text from Marin. Hey babe, I am at Cole's place right now. We had some stuff we needed to hash out from way back. You know how it is? It is getting pretty late, so I am just gonna crash here tonight, instead of driving home tired. Don't make a big deal about it or start overthinking everything. I really hope you are mature enough to handle this without drama. I am sitting there holding my phone, reading this message over and over again. And here is the thing: I didn't explode. I didn't call her screaming. I didn't even text back right away. But something in my chest just dropped. You know that feeling when you are in an elevator and it starts moving too fast, like that, but worse. See, the weird part wasn't even that she was there. It was how she wrote it. I really hope you are mature enough. Who talks like that to someone they are about to marry? It felt like she was setting me up to be the bad guy if I had any normal human reaction to my fiancée sleeping at her ex's house. I called her, straight to voicemail. Called again, an hour later. Still, voicemail. Sent a text. Hey, just want to make sure you are okay. Call me when you get this. Nothing. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, running through 3 years of memories, looking for signs I might have missed. The way she would get secretive about her phone sometimes. How she would mention Cole's name in random conversations, then quickly change the subject. How Pumpkin would get weird and clingy whenever Marin came home late from work events. By morning, I had this sick certainty in my gut that everything I thought I knew was wrong. Update 1. Okay Reddit. So the plot has officially thickened, and I am not even sure how to process this. After that first night of 0 sleep and too much coffee, I made what might have been either the smartest or dumbest decision of my life. I reached out to Violet, Cole's wife. Now, before anyone jumps on me about going behind Marin's back, let me just say, if your fiancée tells you she is sleeping at someone's house, isn't it reasonable to expect that person's spouse would know about it? Like, basic courtesy. So, I text Violet around 10 a.m. Hey Violet, hope you don't mind me checking in. Marin mentioned she was staying over last night because they had some old stuff to work through. Hope everything's okay with you guys. The response came back in about 30 seconds. I am sorry. What? I am pulling a double shift at the hospital. I have been here since yesterday morning. Who is at my house? My blood went cold. I screenshot her message and immediately call her. Turns out, Violet had no idea Marin was even there. She has been working a 36-hour shift covering for someone who called in sick. Cole was supposed to be home alone watching their dog. Here is where it gets absolutely insane. Violet doesn't hesitate. She puts me on hold and calls Cole, then immediately adds me back to make it a 3-way call. I am adding Drew to this conversation. She tells Cole right off the bat. We all need to hear this. Cole starts to protest, but Violet cuts him off. Cole, is Marin at our house right now? Cole's response, I swear I can still hear it perfectly. Oh, I thought you were coming home already. I mean, yeah, she stopped by, but she is not. I mean, we were just… Dead silence for about 10 seconds. Then Violet, in this ice-cold voice I have never heard from her before, put her on the phone. More silence, some shuffling sounds. Then Marin's voice, and guys, she sounded panicked in a way I had never heard before. Hi Violet. Hi Drew. Oh my God, this is so weird. I was just telling Cole how crazy it is that you are working so much lately. Violet cuts her off. Marin, if you just stopped by to talk and crashed on the couch, why did Cole text me an hour ago asking when I would be home? He never asks that unless he is hiding something. The line goes completely quiet. Like dead air for at least 20 seconds. I am sitting in my hotel room holding my breath, and I can practically hear everyone's hearts beating through the phone. Finally, Marin starts talking really fast. I spilled wine on my dress, and Cole let me borrow some clothes, and I was just… Look, this isn't what any of you are thinking. Okay, I came here to talk about some financial stuff from when we were together, and it got late, so I crashed on the couch. End of story. I am really hurt that everyone's immediately jumping to conclusions about me. But here is the thing. Violet's not buying it. She goes, Cole, you are being weird and evasive. Put me on speaker and both of you explain what is really going on right now. Another dead silence. Then Cole, baby, I can explain, and Violet just hangs up on both of them, leaving me alone on the line with nothing but dial tone. 5 minutes later, Marin calls me back. She is crying, but also angry. Like, really angry, Drew. What the hell did you just do? Why did you drag Violet into this? I told you not to make drama, and you immediately went and made everything 1,000 times worse. I found my voice somehow and said, Marin, were you in their bedroom? It is not what you think. That is not what I asked. She hung up on me too. After that call ended, I spent the next hour just sitting on my hotel bed, staring at my phone. Part of me wanted to book the first flight home, but another part of me, the part that has been trained to analyze structural problems, knew I needed to think this through. Meanwhile, Violet kept texting me updates. Apparently Cole was blowing up her phone with increasingly desperate explanations. First, it was Marin just needed someone to talk to. Then, we only talked. Nothing physical happened. By 2 a.m., he was sending paragraphs about how confused he had been and how much he loved Violet. The thing that struck me about Violet's texts was how calm she seemed, like she was documenting evidence rather than having an emotional breakdown. He is now claiming they were planning some kind of surprise for us. She wrote at one point, a surprise that required lying to both our faces for months. I am flying back to Chicago tomorrow. I honestly don't know what I am going to find when I get home, but at least I know I am not going into it blind. The strangest part, I keep thinking about all those times Marin would come home late, and Pumpkin would act weird, hiding under the bed, refusing to come out, even for treats. I always figured he was just being a moody cat. Now I am wondering if he was picking up on something I was too trusting to notice. Edit. A lot of people are asking why I didn't just drive home immediately. Fair question. I am the lead engineer on this project, and we are at a critical phase. If I bail now, it could mean serious safety issues down the line. Sometimes real life doesn't let you drop everything for personal drama. Edit 2. To answer some question, Violet and I have exchanged a few more texts. She is handling this about as well as you would expect. More on that when I can think straight. Edit 3. Someone asked if I confronted Marin directly after the call. I tried calling her back around 1 a.m. She answered on the first ring like she had been waiting, and immediately launched into this speech about boundaries, and how I had no right to involve other people in our relationship. When I asked her point blank about being in Cole's bedroom, she said I was twisting everything and hung up again. Update 2 Reddit. I am back with an update that is somehow worse than I expected, and also weirdly liberating. So I flew back to Chicago that Thursday, and the apartment felt like a crime scene. Marin was there. She would obviously been crying, and the first thing she did was start this whole speech about how I violated her trust by involving Violet, and how she never expected this kind of betrayal from me. The audacity was honestly breathtaking. But here is where the story takes a turn. While Marin was trying to convince me that I was the bad guy for making a phone call, Violet was doing some detective work that would make the FBI proud. Saturday morning, I get a call from Violet. She sounds calm, which somehow made it scarier. "Drew, can you come over? I found some things I think you should see." I drove to their place. Well, Violet's place now, since she had already kicked Qley out. And what I found there was basically a museum of infidelity. Violet had gone through the whole house with a fine-tooth comb. She found Marin's jacket in their closet. Not just any jacket, but the expensive leather one I had bought her for her birthday last year. There was also a bottle of perfume that definitely wasn't Violet's, and I recognized the smell immediately. The worst discovery was a jewelry box tucked behind some books with a necklace inside that I had never seen Marin wear. But there were photos on Qley's phone of her wearing it. And then came the nuclear bomb. Violet had also gone through Qley's iPad, they shared an Apple ID apparently, and found months of messages between him and Marin. Guys, I am talking like 10 months of messages. This wasn't some spontaneous thing. "I filed for divorce this morning," Violet said, matter-of-factly as she handed me printouts. "My lawyer says these messages are going to make things very straightforward." Some of the messages Violet showed me: "Drew's going to Portland next week for 3 days. I remember that work trip. I wish we had more time, like last Tuesday. Last Tuesday was when I was supposedly at dinner with my college friend. He is so focused on work lately, he wouldn't notice if I disappeared for a week. LOL. That last one hit me like a punch to the stomach. Not because it was mean, but because it was true. I had been working a lot. But instead of talking to me about feeling neglected, she had just found someone else to pay attention to her. The worst message, though. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if Qley had proposed instead of Drew. Different timeline, you know? Different timeline. Like our entire relationship was just some consolation prize. Violet sent me screenshots of everything. Then she did something that honestly shocked me. She made us both coffee and said, "Okay, so what is our plan?" Our plan, like we were a team now. And weirdly, it felt right. Here were two people who had been living lies for months, and we were the only ones who actually knew the truth. When I got home, Marin was waiting with flowers and takeout from my favorite Thai place. She launched into this whole apology about how she should have been more thoughtful about how her staying over would look, and how she wanted to rebuild my trust. I put the printed screenshots on the coffee table and said, 10 months. Marin, her face went white. "Drew, those messages. You don't understand the context." "Which part needs context?" "The part where you told him I wouldn't notice if you disappeared. Or the part where you called me your backup plan." She tried a few different approaches. First, it was those messages were taken out of context. Then it was I was just venting. I never meant any of it. Finally, she went with, "If you hadn't been so emotionally unavailable, I wouldn't have needed someone to talk to." But here is what really got me. She started crying and said, "Drew, you are the love of my life. What Qley and I had was just familiar. It didn't mean anything." I looked at her and said, "If it didn't mean anything, why did you do it for 10 months? She couldn't answer that. Then she tried a different tactic. Started talking about how Violet was obviously manipulating me, how she would probably planned this whole thing to break us up because she was jealous of what Marin and I had. The mental gymnastics were incredible. "Marin," I said, "Violet didn't write those text messages. You did." That is when her whole facade cracked. She got angry, really angry. Started yelling about how I was choosing a stranger over someone who has loved me for 3 years, and how I was throwing away everything we built together over some stupid messages. Some stupid messages. 10 months of planning to betray me, and she called them stupid messages. But the moment that really sealed it for me was when she said, "Fine, if you want to leave me for Qley's sloppy seconds. Go ahead. But don't come crawling back when you realize she is just using you for revenge." The venom in her voice when she said sloppy seconds, that is when I saw who she really was underneath all the tears and apologies. I started packing that night. Marin alternated between begging me to stay and insulting Violet, sometimes in the same breath. At one point, she actually said, "At least when I cheated, I picked someone who wasn't trying to destroy your life." The logic was breathtaking. Apparently, Violet was the villain for exposing the truth, not Marin for living a lie. During the packing process, I found more evidence of their affair hidden around our apartment. A receipt for dinner at a restaurant I had never been to, dated during one of my work trips, a movie ticket stub for a film Marin claimed she had seen with her sister. Little lies built on top of bigger lies. The worst part was realizing how many times I would unknowingly helped cover for them. All those nights I worked late because Marin said she had networking events. All those weekends I encouraged her to spend time with friends, because I thought she needed more social connection. I would essentially been giving her permission to cheat on me. I told her I was done. She cried. She begged. She promised therapy, promised to cut all contact with Qley, promised to quit her job if it would help. Qley works for a company they partner with sometimes. I am staying at my brother's place for now. The last thing Marin said to me as I was loading my car was, "You will regret this." Drew edit. People are asking about the apartment and stuff. It is mostly her furniture anyway, and honestly starting fresh sounds pretty good right now. Edit 2. Yes, Violet and I have been talking a lot. No, it is not what you think. We are just two people trying to figure out how to rebuild our lives, after everything we thought we knew turned out to be bullshit. Final update: a lot has happened in the last 6 months, and honestly, life is weird in ways I never could have predicted. First, the practical stuff. Marin and I officially called off the engagement, lost about $3,200 in vendor deposits, but I like to think of it as a tumor removal fee. Worth every penny. She tried the whole cycle of bargaining for about a month after I moved out. Texts, emails, showing up at my work, even got her mom involved to call me and explain how Marin was just going through a confusing time. But the thing about seeing someone's true colors is that you cannot unsee them. Every apology felt like another manipulation attempt. The last text she sent me was pretty revealing. "I hope you are happy with your new girlfriend." She meant Violet. I just blocked her on everything. Now, here is where the story gets interesting, and probably not how you would expect. Violet and I did start spending a lot of time together, but not romantically at first. We were both processing the same betrayal, dealing with lawyers for her divorce, and honestly, it was just nice to talk to someone who understood exactly what I was going through. She is funny in this dry, sarcastic way that I never got to see when we were just acquaintances at group dinners. Turns out she makes these incredibly detailed Excel spreadsheets for everything. Vacation planning, grocery shopping, even ranking movies we might want to watch. As an engineer, I found this weirdly attractive. Around month 3, we realized we were basically dating without calling it dating. We would meet for coffee every Tuesday, text throughout the day, and she had started coming over to help me pick out furniture for my new place. When my brother pointed out that this sounded like a relationship, we both kind of laughed and admitted maybe it was. The transition from fellow betrayal survivors to actually dating was surprisingly natural. We already knew each other's worst stories, so everything else felt easy in comparison. Here is the beautiful irony. Marin apparently lost her mind when she found out Violet and I were together. She sent this long email about how I was clearly rebounding, and how Violet was using me to get back at Qley. The lack of self-awareness was actually impressive. But then she crossed a line. Last month, she tried to get Pumpkin back, showed up at my apartment building claiming she couldn't live without her baby. When building security wouldn't let her up, she tried to convince them I had stolen her cat during a mental health crisis. Violet happened to be there when this went down. She went downstairs and very calmly explained to Marin that pets aren't community property, that Pumpkin was happier than he had ever been, and that if she kept harassing me, Violet would be happy to share some of those old text messages with Marin's employer. Marin left and hasn't bothered me since. Qley, meanwhile, has been trying to reconcile with Violet through mutual friends, even though their divorce was finalized 3 months ago. He even showed up at her hospital once, which did not go over well with security. Last I heard, he has moved back in with his parents and is working on himself, whatever that means. As for Violet and me, we are taking things slow, but it feels right. She has taught me that relationships don't have to be complicated puzzles you are constantly trying to solve. Sometimes they can just be comfortable, easy, honest. We are planning a weekend trip to Michigan next month. She has already made a spreadsheet with hiking trails, restaurant options, and backup indoor activities in case it rains. I am looking forward to it. Life's pretty good now. I have got a cat who actually likes me, a girlfriend who means what she says, and a really good story about why you should always trust your gut. Oh, and for anyone wondering, we kept all the evidence from Maren and Cole's affair. Violet says you never know when documentation might come in handy. I am starting to think she is the strategic one in this relationship. Thanks for following along with this disaster, Reddit.